need to help with this. There's something wrong with Piglet. He just...
You know, somehow I don't think any of these guys are going to be winning any awards.
Piglet, I'm so sorry. I didn't know any of this would happen. I thought you'd be okay without me.
I don't know. What do you Pooh Bear!
I've never left, I swear.
Oh, you silly old bear.
Why are you doing this? We used to be...
It's an absolute mess here, come on. Oh, Pooh Bear, you've covered these in honey as well. You know you're not allowed any after the last incident. I'm still trying to clean it out the carpet. Right, well, no more popcorn for you. I'm going to do something healthy for a change. I think we've still got some fruit left over. I'll go see what's in the cupboards.
Why are you doing this? We used to be friends. What? Stop.
Right, well, doesn't look like there's much in the cupboards at the minute, so we're going to have to make do what we have for now. So I'll go shopping tomorrow. Pooh Bear? Pooh Bear? Pooh Bear? You here? Hey, Pooh. What's with the spoon? Pooh, what are you doing? Cut it out! Hey guys, how you doing? Wait, hang on. No. Hello everyone, happy Halloween and welcome to Rewind Reviews. In this video we're taking a look at the 2023 horror movie Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yes, this is real. After Christopher Robin abandons them for college, Pooh and Piglet embark on a bloody rampage as they search for a new source of food. Released in 2023, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was written and directed by Rhys Frank Waterfield and stars Nikolai Leon, Maria Taylor, Natasha Rose Mills, Amber Doig Thorne, Danielle Ronald, Natasha Tossini, Paula Coys, May Kelly, Danielle Scott, Craig David Dowsett and Chris Cordell. The tales of Winnie the Pooh and his friends from the 100 Acre Wood have been entertaining families since the 1920s. And my family is definitely one of them. And for me and my own personal history with Winnie the Pooh, even though I haven't read the books, or have I? Alright, I've either read one or part of one. Anyway, I have seen a lot of the animated movies and shows from Disney. I used to love the Tigger movie as a kid. And even though they weren't the best levels, I did enjoy the 100 Acre Wood sections of the Kingdom Hearts games. Plus, in more recent years, I've seen both of the Christopher Robin movies. One which was very much a part of Disney's version, and the other was a proper biographical and really interesting film about the creator of Pooh Bear, A.A. Milne, and the relationship that he has with his son. And with the character now entering the public domain, we have now been treated, if that's really the right word to use, to a brand new movie in the shape of a full-on horror movie. For those who aren't aware of the terminology, when something enters the public domain, it means that it is basically accessible to the public in general. It means that a copyright has expired, so anyone can use that intellectual property without ever coming across any legal problems. Or as is the case with YouTube, you won't come across any copyright restrictions or strikes. My favourite things. So basically, people can make films, shows, books, etc. with these characters, stories, music and more with no issues, and you can actually profit off it all legally. And that's the case with this movie, Blood and Honey. Even though technically it is a fan film, I personally am choosing to see this movie as more of a fan film than anything else. It is all completely legal. And it goes about as well as you'd expect. Now, I'm not saying the idea behind this movie is bad. If anything, I do actually quite like the concept surrounding this film. There's some interesting and pretty twisted ideas that have gone into the development of this, especially the backstory behind what happened between Christopher Robin and his friends, which is told in a visually interesting way with a 2D animated section that shows everything while a narrator explains what happened, including why the characters look the way they do, which I do appreciate. There is admittedly quite a bit of exposition that is featured quite early on in this movie, and I do feel like a lot of it does feel quite forced, especially when they basically just kind of go over what's already been said in the opening narration. But I will admit the opening for this movie is alright overall. But when it comes to the overall story of this movie, following on from the opening sequence and beyond, I do feel like the focus and the overall execution of it does feel very off. And that really is the summary of how I feel with this one, because this is a full-length feature film, but the opening section on its own up until the title card could have been a fairly decent short. And I like that an older Christopher Robin is the focal point of that section, because that is the most interesting part of this. But unfortunately, after the titles roll, the focus shifts onto someone else entirely, and the movie becomes all about this group of friends going on a trip together, being hunted and picked off one by one by a killer Winnie the Pooh, which does admittedly sound hilarious when you say it out loud. The story is generic, and there's no other way of saying that. It has very little substance. It does try to be more than it is, but it ultimately feels very rushed. I thought that they'd try and do something quite clever behind the reason why it is that Pooh and Piglet go after this group of friends, with maybe a twist that is revealed later on. But nope, they just hate people and want to kill them. And without spoiling this, you know, if you actually want to see this, all I'll say is how this movie ends, how the story is all tied together, I do think is a little bit ridiculous, and it doesn't actually resolve anything. I sat there, the credits started to roll, and I genuinely went, wait, whoa, that's it? That's how it ends? It wasn't good, and it felt like sequel bait. It's also a movie that is absolutely full of plot holes. Unfortunately for me, I did find these ones quite distracting, and you will find yourself asking a lot of questions. I haven't really talked about plot holes on this channel before, and it's not really something that I normally would really bring up, because it's not something that I really feel like I need to address, especially if it is a movie that I do enjoy. If I'm caught up in the story, if I'm caught up in the emotions and the characters, plot holes don't really bother me, and I don't really feel like they're really worth mentioning. When I'm not that invested in the story, I am much more likely to notice those plot holes, and I will start asking questions. Like in this, they go out of their way to make sure that the girls are all cut off from the outside world, so one of them takes all of their phones away. Fair enough. But then everything kicks off, and nobody asks where the phones are or tries to get them, apart from the one obsessed with social media. It doesn't make sense to never bring it up ever again in this movie, when all it would take is one single line of dialogue, and I feel like that would fix that plot hole. Oh, there's no signal here. There. Done. It wouldn't fix everything, but it's a start. Or make it so the person who took the phones away in the first place is one of the first ones to die, so nobody knows where they hid them. It's just little things like that that could have helped. When it comes to the characters themselves, as I said, early on the movie focuses on Nikolai Leon as Christopher Robin, but they don't really do enough with him or his fiancée. And the same can be said for the other characters as well, who are pretty bland for the most part, and outside of two of them, don't have any traits that make them particularly memorable. The strongest characters are probably the main character Maria, played by Maria Taylor, and Lara, played by Natasha Tassini. Maria has a bit of a backstory that does get brought up when we meet her, and it involves a stalker breaking into her house, so we get an idea of her mental state, which could be a great setup for her character and how she handles this situation, but it doesn't really factor into the story, and it's not properly addressed or resolved. With Lara, in fairness, they barely do anything with her, but at least she does have some of the more memorable scenes, and that's including that scene involving a car and a sequence involving a hot tub, and you can see both Pooh Bear and Piglet approaching out of the shadows, which I will admit is a pretty creepy and kind of creative visual. I did question why it is that she takes selfies in landscape format in that scene though. I don't know anyone who does that. It is absolutely just to build up tension, because you can see Pooh Bear in the shadows behind her, and to be fair, it is an okay setup. The most that the writer does with Lara is they do go out of their way to establish that she's addicted to her phone, which is way more than they do with the others. But that's really it. The performances from the cast are not great and do feel quite wooden overall, and then that gets combined with some dodgy dialogue, and it just comes across as a bit awkward and stilted. I don't feel like the performances are awful, but I do feel like they could have been a lot better. And then when it comes to this movie's interpretation of Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, there's some strange decisions. Pooh Bear kind of looks like a lumberjack, he even kind of dresses like one. And then when it comes to Piglet, I don't know how many of you guys have ever watched Doctor Who, but there's a 2-part episode with David Tennant and Freema Agyeman that sees the Doctor facing off against the Daleks in 1930s New York. It even features a pre-Spider-Man Andrew Garfield. But getting back on track, the 2 episodes featured these genetically modified humanoid pigs that were helping the Daleks. And that is basically what Piglet looks like. But when it comes to their overall characterisation, neither Pooh Bear nor Piglet have any kind of personality whatsoever. They don't even talk, which admittedly, they do explain why in the film. I do think that there is a missed opportunity for either Pooh Bear or one of the victims to say, "Oh bother," when something nasty happens. They do get Pooh Bear eating honey at one point, and they do try and incorporate that when they can, but it does feel like an afterthought, and there's definitely places where they could have used it more creatively, like maybe have Maria and one of her friends use it as bait to lure Pooh Bear out. I like that they did try and give Pooh Bear a little bit of depth in one scene with Christopher Robin, but they don't do much more than that. And that's why I said that this movie should have focused more on that stuff, because that to me is far more interesting. I also think that the kills are pretty standard too, and none really feel tailored to these characters. There are some mildly creative ones, but as I said, they don't really feel like something only these characters would or could do. They do show that Pooh Bear can control some dodgy looking CGI bees, but that really comes out of nowhere and they barely do anything fun with it. I even reckon they could have had Pooh and Piglet play a game of Pooh Sticks with the bones of their victims. I know bones are too dense to float, but that could have been a funny scene. They are on a bridge in one shot of the trailer, but I don't think that's actually in the movie. There is definitely a lot of missed opportunities in this movie, and I really think that they could have had a lot of fun with it. And in fairness, some of the visuals of Pooh Bear in this movie can actually be quite funny. I do honestly think, now that I've brought it up, that some of the visuals in this movie are actually pretty okay. There's some fairly decent shots with some spooky imagery used throughout this, and I feel like that might actually be helped by the set designs of this movie, because the set designs overall, to me, are actually not that bad. And I also think that the way lighting is used throughout this movie is pretty good too. I will admit that when it comes to the editing in this movie, I do feel like it is quite mixed overall. It is mostly fine overall, and it does let some sequences breathe, but it can sometimes be a bit messy, and I do feel like the continuity can be a little bit off too. The only shots that they use in this movie that I really did not like are the ones that they used during the chase sequences. If people didn't like the shaky cam sequences in the first Hunger Games movie, they are going to absolutely hate these. I get that it is meant to be handheld, I get that that is the style that they are going for with these sequences, but in all honesty, you cannot see what is going on in these sequences at all, and you may experience some motion sickness. I'll tell you what else made me feel a little bit sick in this movie, and that's the gore. My god, this movie is gruesome. So gruesome, in fact, that I genuinely started asking if the people working on this movie were okay. I don't personally have a problem with gore in movies, but it's not something that I enjoy seeing. And I will fully admit that that is the reason why I've never watched any of the Saw movies. It is very excessive, and it absolutely earns that 18 certificate. I didn't know that this had an 18 certificate when I watched this. I genuinely thought that it was going to be like a really edgy 15. So when one scene involving a car happened, that really caught me off guard, because I really wasn't expecting them to show as much as they did. I was watching that sequence and I was genuinely going, oh my god, that is way worse than I thought it was going to be. I do think the makeup team had some fun with this one though, and I will admit the makeup and prosthetics that they do use throughout this movie are pretty good for the most part. When it comes to the makeup for Pooh Bear and Piglet in this movie, for me personally, it's a little bit mixed, but I feel like that is more because of the designs. Piglet, personally, I think looks a little bit better than Pooh Bear, but as I said, he looks like the humanoid pigs from Doctor Who. And with Pooh Bear, there is more of an effort to make him look like the classic Pooh Bear that most people will recognise, and I think it's okay, but it is hard not to watch this movie and not think it's just people wearing masks. I'll be honest, when I saw the teaser trailer for this movie and the posters, I did genuinely think that that's what it was. It was just going to be these deranged killers wearing these masks. There is a bit of movement from the mouth and the ears, which I did like, but it is very constrained considering that these are not meant to be cuddly toys. They are meant to be actual living creatures, so they could have done a lot more with them. I get that this is a low budget movie, I fully understand that, and they are doing everything that they can within the budget that they have. And from what I've seen of the sequel, which is going to introduce Tigger as well as Owl, this does look like it has been improved. And when it comes to the music in this movie by Andrew Scott Bell, it is pretty okay overall. I do feel like it is a little bit generic, and I don't feel like it's particularly that memorable, but it does fit the tone that this movie has gone for, and it does work within the movie. None of the characters really seem to have their own individual themes or anything like that, but one thing that I do think that the music does do quite well in this movie is it does highlight the horror. So I do think in those regards that the music is okay overall, and it is used well. Overall, and this will come as a surprise to absolutely no one, this movie is not good. It does have a fun premise and ideas, but the execution of the story, the rushed plot, the very bland 2D characters and flat performances don't provide any investment. It has some good shots and lighting and an okay soundtrack, but the majority of this can be very generic, sometimes messy, and relies on tricks other and better movies have used. It does look pretty cheap, but to be fair, it is a low budget production and they do use what they can, including some alright makeup and prosthetics. But there is very little fun to be had from this. It takes itself way too seriously for this kind of movie, and unfortunately it isn't entertaining in a way that makes this a so bad it's good kind of film. The highest praise that I can give this is that someone did have an idea and they managed to get it made. They had a vision for what they wanted this movie to be, and they went out and they made it. It's never an easy feat getting a movie made, and it is, in my opinion, always commendable. Look, if you're curious about this film and you know what you're getting into, I'd say give it a look. Just don't get your hopes up. But outside of that, I can't recommend this. It isn't good and it is not entertaining. So with all that being said, my rating for Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey is a 4 out of 10. As I said earlier on, I'm choosing to see this movie more as a fan film than anything else. It has the look and the overall quality of one, but even then there are so many better fan films out there that really are worth a watch. I haven't really talked about fan films on this channel before, but it is something that I would like to do in the future, because in all honesty there are some absolutely brilliant ones out there that really do deserve a lot more attention. Maybe I'll do a top 10 one day, and guess what movie won't be part of that list? I still can't get over that they actually are making a sequel to this. And it gets even better, they're making a Bambi horror movie too. They're even doing one for Peter Pan. I remember a TV show called Once Upon a Time actually doing a really creepy version of Peter Pan, and that was actually pretty good. I didn't actually mind that show overall, and in fairness, that Shadow Peter Pan idea was one of the genuinely decent ideas that they had. The rest of it was a bit mixed. In all honesty, I'm just waiting to see what someone could do with Mickey Mouse. You could have it be like a commentary on how the studio is run nowadays, or something along those lines. What do you guys think they should do? Well, I think I've waffled on long enough for this video, so I'm going to leave things there. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoy this content, please like, please subscribe, and hit the notification button to keep up to date on everything that's going on here. If you have seen Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, let me know down in the comments what you think about it. Plus, if you have any suggestions for any future Rewind reviews you would like me to do, let me know down below. And also, I'm really curious who you guys think should get the horror treatment in the future, so if you have any ideas, let me know down in the comments. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Rewind Reviews. Happy Halloween.